While Sophie and Jesse are likely to eventually end up together in the How I Met Your Mother spin-off, that doesn't mean that How I Met Your Father Season 2 will rush to reunite them. Like its predecessor How I Met Your Mother, How I Met Your Father centers around an older version of its protagonist telling the long, winding story of how she met the father of her children. However, the spin-off changed the original sitcom's formula by confirming that the father was one of the characters introduced by the end of the pilot episode. This resulted in some tricky storytelling to keep viewers guessing, like mentioning that Josh Peck's How I Met Your Father love interest, Drew, was in the first episode's party off-screen after the fact. However, by far the most likely father candidate that How I Met Your Father has introduced so far is Jesse, the lovable musician who Sophie realizes she has a crush on near the end of Season 1. How I Met Your Father's Jesse seems likely to be the father of her children, since he tells the heroine he loves her the first time they hook up. This leads the commitment-phobic Sophie to bolt, but by the time Sophie realizes she wants to reciprocate the gesture, it is too late and Jesse has reunited with his ex Meredith, a setup that strongly suggests both Sophie and Jesse still have feelings for one another. While Meredith and Jess's reunion likely won't last long, that doesn't mean that Jesse and Sophie are guaranteed to be back together anytime soon in How I Met Your Father Season 2. How I Met Your Father Season 1's Jesse-Sophie breakup. Sophie and Jesse barely got as far as hooking up in How I Met Your Father Season 1 before Sophie's fear of commitment managed to scupper their potential as a couple. In fairness to Sophie, Jesse did mumble that he loved her as they fell asleep, a surprisingly heavy end to what seemed like a low-stakes rebound hookup after her breakup with Drew. This led Sophie to tell Jesse that she wasn't looking for anything serious, which, along with the return of his ex-girlfriend Meredith, eventually resulted in Jesse rekindling an old relationship instead of pursuing Sophie. After a conversation with How I Met Your Mother heroine Robin, Sophie realized she did want to go all in with Jesse and tell him that she did have serious feelings about him too. However, it was too late, and soon afterwards Sophie's ex Ian also returned to New York and rekindled their romance, proving that perhaps Jesse and Sophie were simply not meant to be. Sophie-Jesse starred How I Met Your Father Season 2 apart, with Jesse dating Meredith again and Sophie reuniting with Ian. It is clear that Jesse and Sophie won't be getting back together in a hurry. While Sophie and Ian weren't together for too long before long distance broke them up, Jesse and Meredith were almost engaged before How I Met Your Father began. However, while Leighton Meester's Meredith wasn't the Gossip Girl clone that viewers might have expected, she did turn down Jess's proposal in public. As such, any reunion between Meredith and Jesse is unlikely to last long, as Jesse never seemed to get over this heartbreak. Meanwhile, Ian and Sophie may ironically have more potential as a couple, since they have less history together and a less complicated past. How I Met Your Father Season 2 can reunite Jesse-Sophie, while there is a chance that Ian will be Sophie's love interest for much of How I Met Your Father Season 2. Like Meredith, he comes with an expiration date. Viewers never got to know Ian for more than 1 or 2 episodes, with even How I Met Your Father's Drew getting a bigger role than Sophie's first love interest. As a result, it is unlikely that Ian will become a major character in Season 2, since How I Met Your Father has already set up its central friend group and established a solid dynamic between them. Much like How I Met Your Mother's Ted was always destined to end up with Robin, since she was the only love interest of his who was part of the show's core cast, How I Met Your Father's heroine seems likely to end up with Jesse, since he is one of the show's lead characters. Why How I Met Your Father must keep Jesse and Sophie apart. However, just because the duo is likely to be endgame doesn't mean that How I Met Your Father Season 2 should bring Jesse and Sophie back together quickly. Much like How I Met Your Father's Valentina should stay single in Season 2, so viewers can get to know her character better, the spin-off should let viewers get to know Jesse and Sophie as individuals before pairing them off. While the Drew arc in Season 1 means that How I Met Your Father viewers know what Sophie is like in a relationship, they have not seen much of Jess's love life. His out-of-nowhere declaration of love for Sophie, alongside his elaborate failed proposal for Meredith, proves that Jesse is clearly a man who wears his heart on his sleeve, and How I Met Your Father could flesh out this element of the character more before he ends up with Sophie. How I Met Your Father Season 2 must avoid a HIMYM problem. One of How I Met Your Mother's most hated early plots saw Ted pursue Robin even though it was clear that she wasn't interested in him, not to mention the fact that Ted was already dating Victoria at the time. How I Met Your Father Season 2 should avoid recreating this storyline with Sophie pursuing Jesse while he is with Meredith, and she is still seeing Ian. This would not only make Sophie less likable, but would also make the prospect of Jesse and Sophie getting together less likely, since their shared cheating would always inevitably end in a dramatic revelation. As such, How I Met Your Father should learn from How I Met Your Mother's mistakes and keep Jesse and Sophie apart as Season 2 begins, even though many viewers have already worked out that the couple is likely to end up together in the long run.
With a gentle touch, you tell me